Jaime Harrison is a treasure. He chaired the South Carolina Democratic Party and told everybody that Democrats should do what we should really do and run everywhere. And later on, he stepped up and took on Lindsey Graham in a Senate race. It was a very spirited race, and for which a whole chunk of the country owes him a debt of enormous gratitude, taking that guy on. And then he stepped up to be the head of the DNC, which was, is maybe the most thankless job in America in so many ways. And during his tenure, he had to navigate the unprecedented sort of disaster of a president saying at the last minute, hey, I'm not going to run, and figure out what that means. And now suddenly there's not a set of primaries, and you got to change a whole convention overnight. And he managed to pull off a great convention in Chicago. While Jaime was there, look, the Democrats had overperforming great successes and an enormous heartbreaking loss. So, Jaime, it's great to see you. It's great to talk to you again. I missed you, but you've been busy.
Well, it is always great seeing you, my friend, and thank you for having me on, and thank you for your kind words. I've been doing a lot of reflecting on the last few years, and it's one of those things you do your Monday morning quarterbacking, and you're like, well, could we have done this? Could we have done that? And there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but in the end of the day, the question is not where we've been, is where we're going.
Yep.
And what do we do in order to modify and change that? And the one thing I've told folks, I may not have the title of chair of the DNC anymore, but I still have the responsibility of making sure that we fight for the democracy that we love, that we need, that we deserve, and that we want to pass along to our kids. And so I'm staying in this fight and doing everything I can to make sure that as we go through this hell and this chaos, that we come out whole on the other end.
Well, that's because, your good friend, Jim Clyburn, he taught you well. I think it was something that you published where I read, he said, we don't lead to make noise, we lead to make meaning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly right. It is. I'm not about the performative at this point, because this is not the time for the performance. It's time to do the real work. And I had this interesting interview the other day with this guy, Paul Resendorf, who's an independent, and he's a great guy. I really like him a lot. But then he posted a meme on this, why the Democrats suck, and then he talks about who's to blame for all of this. And I responded back to him in a tweet that I remember in the Five and Dime store in my hometown that I grew up in Orangeburg. There was a sign that said, you break it, you buy it. Well, you know what? It's not Democrats that just broke this. It's not Republicans that just broke it. It's not just independents that broke it. We all broke it. And so we bought it. And now the question is, what do we do with it? We are in this situation because of choices that we've all made. And now we need to make the right choices in order to make it better, in order to fix it.
So let's talk about this set of choices. They feel very much like we are, to quote Elon Musk's message to federal employees, it feels like we're at a fork in the road.
Yeah.
We're at a fork in the road moment.
Yes.
Because we got one side that has a vision of America that is, let me say it differently. The trait of Americans, the trait in our character from our founding has been that we believe in freedom and we're going to fight for it. And that fight has taken hundreds of years, right? It didn't come to Black America for a long time. Women didn't get the right to vote for a long time. But that trait that we believe in freedom and want to fight for it was something that all Americans liked. The trait that Donald Trump likes is self-censorship, praising the boss, and obedience, right? Those are they're not compatible. It's a different fork in the road. about who we are fundamentally, not just what we do, not just what laws we pass, but who we are. And I mean, I feel like that's where we are today.
It's right where we are, and it's so funny that you said this because this week's episode of my podcast, At Our Table, I have Jim Clyburn on there, and he talks about Alexis de Tocqueville and when de Tocqueville came to America.
Yep.
And he talked about the greatness of America, and he said the defining greatness of America is its ability to fix its faults, right? The question is, do we still have that ability?
Yeah.
Do we still have that ability?
We have to see
fix
those
our
faults,
faults.
fix them.
Yeah. And you're right. You have to see them in order to fix them. Yeah. And some of us are still blind to them, right?
Well, I mean, let's talk. I mean, yes, a lot of the country. I mean, I'm not even sure it's their fault. The propaganda machine is very big right now.
It's very big, and social media and technology have just made it worse.
Well, that's why you and I are doing this here, and why you have Jamie's Table, why you have your own podcast, reaching out to lots of people that the mainstream media has ignored, and that the propaganda machine, is sort of the fog in the air. You're breaking through it.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the reason why I started a podcast, because I got tired, Edwin, of when I was chair going on, and they have a frame in which they go into the interview with a frame in which they want to have a discussion and where they want to push you, right? Yeah. Instead of just allowing the conversation to go where it goes, for the facts to be the facts. They want to spin it in a certain way. They want to create the antagonism. They want to paint you or the party or candidates in a certain fashion or form that fits their agenda. Where ultimately what I want folks is not that I want you to go anywhere. I just want you to be authentic. I want you to be who you are. I want you to express what you need to express. And then you leave it up to us to judge whether or not we like it or not. Yep. Whether or not we like you or not, or whether we want to support you or not. Yep. It's not that I want to push you in a certain direction. I want you to say what you need to say and speak it plainly, as my grandfather used to say. And then I will be the judge, and others will be the judge on whether or not we like it. Or
I think that makes sense. And it's the traditional media's had a very tough time with that.
Yeah.
Political media in particular.
Yeah. And it's getting worse with even some of, if you look at what's going on at CBS right now, and you're getting these billionaires who have a lens in which they want to see the world, and they want you to see the world. And because it's like monopoly money to them, I'll buy the Washington Post and then gut their editorial board because I don't like the way that they have done it. I'll just buy CBS, and we'll get rid of any of the folks that try to call it straight down the middle, and we'll put in some of our right-wing pundits. We'll go over to Fox News and bring some of those folks in to do our news.
Yeah, and call it balance.
Yeah, and call it balance. And then you have an administration say, that is perfect because our folks are buying up all these entities, and those who don't toe that line, guess what? We'll take your license away because we can do that.
Well, so I mean, coercion is Americans have never liked to be pushed around.
No,
and this is an administration that believes in coercion. Like I said, like their favorite traits are obedience, and if they don't get it, they send troops to my city.
Yeah,
I mean, I just don't. I don't think this is a partisan question. This goes to who we are as our national character.
That's exactly right. I mean, all of the norms, there are certain norms that you expected, regardless if it was a Democrat in the White House or a Republican or Democrats controlling the House or Senate. Those norms are all gone because these people, they don't believe in the rule of law, or at the very least, they don't believe that the rule of law applies to them. It applies to everybody else. And it's only in terms of how they interpret that law. And that's the thing that's problematic. And, they don't like to be called fascist, but if you do fascist stuff, then you get to be called fascist. I mean, that's the bottom line. Right?
I would call him a fascist any day and stand by Yeah, I mean, you don't rip down the White House without any permission. Just tear it down, put a wrecking
Just
ball.
tear it down.
You don't send Congress into the witness protection program during a government shutdown, for gosh sakes, like the Russian Duma.
I mean, the fact that Speaker Johnson said, well, the government shut down, you still have work to do. There is still other even besides the funding of the government, which you didn't do your job on that initially because, you got appropriations bills. If you went through normal order, you would pass your appropriations bills, then send those bills over to the Senate. They pass theirs. You go to conference, you get it done, and you do it before the budget runs out of money, before the government runs out of money. You didn't do your job to start off with. And then now, you got all of these other issues that are percolating, and you are not working. Congress has not worked for months. They took all of August off, most of September off. You had some holidays in September, took most of that off. And now we are done. Today's the last day of October, and they've taken all of October off.
Right. But and people are about to be hungry.
Yes. And they're still getting their paycheck, but people are about to lose their health insurance, and there are folks who need SNAP benefits for food, and they won't have it. And we're knocking on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and SNAP benefits, I mean, a good chunk of Illinois is farmland where I am. And you got plenty of farming where you are. Those SNAP benefits, they certainly benefit the people who need the food. But guess where the money goes? It goes to the agriculture world.
That's exactly
all those farmers who voted for Trump are getting it hit too by this.
Well, yeah, and not only are they getting hit by that, but they're also getting hit by the crazy tariffs that he's instituted. I mean, soybeans.
People buying the Argentinian beef.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a disaster, and all of it could have been prevented. Every single bit of this.
Every single bit of it. Well, I want to talk about one thing that I know you know about, and it matters, and it scares me a lot about America. Louisiana versus Calais.
Oh.
It could be the end of the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act was 100 years late, and it was the response to those great post-Civil War constitutional amendments that said Congress, not the Supreme Court, Congress shall pass laws to enforce voting rights in America, to enforce everybody's right to vote in America. And John Roberts has made a career of saying, no, Congress doesn't get to do that. I get to do it. And he's on the verge of getting rid of it entirely.
Yep.
And what that means in Louisiana and what it means across the country is terrifying.
It is, Edwin, again, and I talk about Jim Clyburn a lot because, one, he was a teacher of history, and when you work for him, you can't
better know your history.
Yeah, and you can't help but learn a little bit more of your history. And in essence, what we have seen is he talks about how Project 2025 is Jim Crow 2.0. And I just recently wrote a Substack about how this decision in terms of the Voting Rights Act and what the future of the Voting Rights Act could mean, the initiation of the second post-Reconstruction in this country. And we know what happened in the first Reconstruction. That was the emergence of Jim Crow. That was the emergence of, he just wrote this book called The First Eight, in which he details how the first 8 black congressmen that served in South Carolina, and they all served in that period, the Reconstruction period after the Civil War, up until about 1890. I think the last one served until 1895. And there were 8 black congressmen. Well, it took almost 100 years, Edwin, between the 8th and number 9. Jim Clyburn was the number 9. Mm-hmm. So almost 100 years before South Carolina, a state that at one time was majority black, right? The state where the bulk of enslaved Africans came to this country. It took almost 100 years for South Carolina to elect another black congressman. And if John Roberts and the Supreme Court are able to gut the Voting Rights Act, it is not far-fetched to think that we could go through another period very similar. Many of the African Americans that are in Congress today are in seats that are VRA seats in the South. And some of these southern states controlled by Republicans are drooling at the prospect of being able to go back and redraw these districts to eliminate those districts. And thereby, where the bulk of African Americans live in this country, in the South, leave them without adequate representation in Congress.
Or in state legislatures.
That as well.
Everywhere.
And, Roberts has this fallacy that the Voting Rights Act is past its expiration date because there's no more racism in America.
Right? Let's talk about that because in my lifetime, I'm sure God knows America's race is not a new problem in America.
No,
but in my lifetime, there's never been a more racist administration.
Yeah,
not ever. I can't. You can't read about Jackie Robinson in a library in the Navy. I kissed. Did you ever seen those? I call them trading cards. Those white people trading cards. Those things that Homeland Security puts out. Those this is this fork in America that I'm talking about. This is not a people yearning to be free. This is a people yearning to shove everybody else around, and that goes to who we are, profoundly who we are.
Profoundly, and it's disturbing. It really is disturbing, and when I think about it, I often also talk about my grandparents, and I wrote another piece in which I told a story about how my grandmother, when I was young, told me a story about how the KKK marched through her town, through her neighborhood, actually, when she was a little girl, and how frightened she was about that.
Yeah.
And you could still see, she would tell the story and you could still see and feel the fear that she had. Well, Edwin, it's moments like that and the traumas that sometimes you bury. I almost forgot that when I was 11 years old, and this was in the 80s, so I had to have been 1987. In my hometown.
You were 11 in 1987? That is just, for me, that is just, young man. This is the thing. Sometimes we compartmentalize these things like the KKK. That was so long ago. That marching is so long ago. The KKK marched through my hometown in 1987 when I was 11 years old, 3 days after my birthday. And it was a friend who had to remind me about it. And I remember my grandma, and once he reminded me about it, then all of the other memories it triggered all of the other memories. Sure.
And I remember my grandma that weekend really just saying, we're not going downtown. We're not this and we're not that. Right. And I asked her about it and she said, there's some bad people who are doing this and then all of but that was 1987.
Yeah, but there's a difference between when the KKK marched when you were a kid than when your grandma was a kid.
Oh, yes.
And the difference was that we had laws, and if they broke the laws, they were going to get prosecuted. Yeah. But now we have a president who, if they break the laws, they know they're going to get pardoned.
Exactly.
So we are back to armed thugs being able to do what they want to do with impunity, at least from federal law.
Well, he often said, make America great again. The question is, what America was he talking about? And who was he talking about? Who was that greatness, assigned to at that point in time?
Well, he's answered that question, I think, without debate anymore. It isn't about any point in time in the past. The only thing he wanted to make great was himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he returned from a trip to Asia this week with a gold crown. This is who this man is.
Well, and a gold crown, and his kids are making a bunch of gold in their bank accounts, given all of the money that they have made since he's been elected president again. Again, all criminal. Had any other folks done any of this stuff? All of this pearl grabbing that the Republicans did about Hunter Biden and paintings and this and that. When you look at these people, have become billionaires.
Yeah,
billionaires
stealing from you and me.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot can be said about Joe, about the job he did or didn't do, but there's nobody who thinks he wasn't a decent human being.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And oh my gosh, we are learning how important that is.
Yeah. Well, decency it's really, really important. And we see that now more than ever. And I just, I don't know, Edwin. The mental anguish that these last few months, and I know I'm not the only one going through it. I see it. Just you go to your kid's school, or you see people in the stores, and people are going through some hard times right now. It is really, really hard times, and it's not just hard economically. I think that the mental weight that these times are putting on people, and I hear the horror stories about ICE in some of these communities and detaining people who are American citizens.
Yes.
Right. It is. In my wildest dreams, I could never have imagined this type of chaos in this country.
Yes. The other side, though, and I see this in my city every day now. Chicago, and Chicago's historically segregated city.
Mm-hmm.
But this attack on our city has brought all the parts of the city together in ways that I love. And, in the richest, whitest neighborhoods, when ICE pinches a guy, people are running out of their houses in the morning, shouting at him, trying to get the guy free. In Black communities, both south and west sides of Chicago, people are saying, those are my neighbors, you can't go after them. Folks who are supporting these immigrant communities and American citizens against being pushed around. And ICE has been brutal here.
Yeah.
Really brutal here. I mean, they've tear gassed whole neighborhoods. They've tear gassed kids. They shot a priest. I mean, they're just appalling. And it hasn't led to despair. It's led to determination. And I suspect the voter turnout in the next election, when they have a chance to actually go to the polls and have a say about this, they could have one polling place for the whole city. People will stand in line for 40 hours to cast that vote.
Well, I hope so. I hope the American people stand up and speak out in a way that we've never seen before, so that they send a strong message to folks, and particularly, I don't really give a damn the message that it goes to Donald Trump, but I want the message to be sent to the feckless Republicans that you see in Congress, the ones who talk a great game, but in the end of the day, who have been as pliable as a string in the wind. I mean, these folks are just, Mike Johnson's, the Thunes of the world.
Yeah, you want to send them a message. I want them beaten.
Yes.
I want them out.
Well, that's the message that I want. I want to wipe them out. Wipe them out of the Congress. They are, in terms of what they've done to America. Yes.
In terms of their leadership, their moral leadership. I mean, I've said this before. In my lifetime, again, Republican or Democrat, there has never been an administration until now where there is literally no one in the senior leadership of American government I can admire. I can point to and say to a young person, that is a decent, good person trying to do good for America. There isn't one.
Not one.
And all of these guys wrapping their arms around it and making excuses for it have forfeited their right to be in government. And I hope we hound them out. Hound them.
Well, we have to. For the first time in recent American history, there's no USAID in order to assist countries overseas. No. The IDEA at the Department of Ed is basically being cut because the folks who are there to ensure compliance, making sure that families with kids with disabilities, they're gone.
Gone.
I mean, you look at HHS, and what Robert Kennedy has done there in terms of measles outbreak. I just took my kids to their well visits at the pediatrician, and she and I were talking, and she said, Jamie, you also need, as an adult, need to think about, have you gotten all of the shots that you needed when you were a kid? Because if you didn't, the outbreaks, we are starting to see whooping cough again. We're starting to see measles. We're starting to see all of these things in which we had control over now are breaking out all over the country. So we're less safe. We're less healthy. And all of this chaos, again, comes from one man and one party.
Right. Who was going to, by the way, bring peace to the world on day one?
Who wants a Nobel Peace Prize so badly?
Right.
How the hell do you get a Nobel Peace Prize when you're beating the crap out of people in your own cities?
Right. Or blowing up boats in the Caribbean.
Yes. Yes.
And now he wants to do nuclear testing again. Boom. He loves it. So, all right. So I got to ask, the last couple of weeks, there have been these postmortems on the Democratic Party, what we could have done differently. And there were two of them that came out. They each was a little bit different. Are they helpful, these sort of things, or are they like, or is it the money protecting itself?
Yeah. The last one I saw, there's some good stuff. You can always find some golden nuggets in all of them. Right.
Yeah.
I do think there's a little CYA going in some spaces on this for some people. Some people just trying to keep themselves relevant. Right. But in the end of the day, there are some fundamental changes that I do think we have to make as a party. At the same time, I don't, we've been in spaces not quite like the one we're in now, but in moments like this before, in which the party is in the wilderness, right? Mm-hmm. In which the newspapers are and the reporters are writing the obituaries, and all of a sudden, like the phoenix, we come out of the ashes and we reemerge. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's going to happen again. Yeah. I really do believe that because it has to. I mean, if we want to save American democracy as we know it, we're going to have to reemerge as a phoenix in order to do that. So it's. I think these are the pains that you normally go through after a very, very hard loss.
I guess. I mean, Americans don't know what the Democratic Party is. It's very hard to know. Frankly, I mean, you've been the most inside there can be into the Democratic Party. And even you can sometimes like, what is this thing? Because it's a small county party in Nevada, and it's a mayor's race in New York, and it is this national organization that cannot help but be dysfunctional because you got a White House who wants one thing, you got a state chairs who want something else. I mean, you live that life. It's very hard for people to know what a Democratic Party is, except for there's a shared set of values that comes across all of it.
Yeah. Well, Edwin, I think that is the messiness of diversity.
Yeah. It's easy to know what the Republicans are.
It is. I mean, they're monolithic.
Two-stepping fascists.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They're monolithic. And in some aspects, you go to some places, you go to House of Republican Conference, almost monochromatic, right? They all look alike. They
even now dress alike.
Yeah. And they all dress alike.
Yeah.
And so, I often say that America's strength is diversity. I've always felt that's been the same with the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is a reflection of America in some aspects. I mean, we look like America. We represent all of America's diversity in terms of gender, sexual orientation, religion, ethnic backgrounds, race, creeds, everything that you find in America, you find in the Democratic Party. I cannot always say that's the case in the other party.
Yeah.
And so when you have that much diversity, stitching that all together and say, okay, you need to be on one accord, you need to have one message, that's a hell of a task.
Yeah,
I mean,
it doesn't gonna happen.
No, it's not going to happen. So the question is, how do you take that chaotic mess, like that chaos of diversity, right, and get it together so that it is in some semblance of some form or fashion that it can be productive and actually do good and move forward. And that is the challenge that the party has. And that is not the challenge that you see on the other side. It is much simpler. And they
try and use our diversity against us.
Oh, they do.
So like New York City is not any place in Kansas.
No.
So New York has a mayor's race, and they have a guy who wins a Democratic primary named Zoran Mamdani. Yeah. God bless New York. God bless her. He won the primary. I hope he does a great job as mayor. That does not mean that the Democratic Party in Kansas is exactly the same as it is in Manhattan.
No.
It's not, and that's okay.
And that it is okay. I mean, even if you take our three biggest cities, if you said New York, Chicago, and LA, right?
Yep.
Those three, they're all Democratic.
Very different.
But very different.
Yep.
They're very different. And so, and you got very different people who are mayors in those cities, right?
Yep.
So we are not monolithic in that sense, and people reflect the needs of the people on an individual basis. When Speaker O'Neill said all politics is local, is true. It is local, and
you got to serve your constituents.
Yes.
Although Mike Johnson doesn't have, he's never, because of gerrymandering, he's never actually had a real campaign in his life.
Never.
And he's not working for the people in his district. He's working for the money and the map makers in Washington.
That's exactly right. Right. So I tell folks, you can't take too much out of one particular election and then apply that to the entirety of the Democratic Party. Because that's naive to do so, because you can't know a whole lot about the party if you think one election defines who the party is and what we are and what we believe.
But we do have some enduring values that we have
do.
Most of the time lived up to, not always.
Yeah.
But we want to work for the people who live in these districts. We really want to work for them and make their lives better.
That's exactly right.
And to the extent that the people have different needs in different parts of the country or want to test out different ways to meet those needs, that is perfectly fine.
Yep. Edwin, you could go to, again, take those cities that I just said, and you ask them, what are your top 5 priorities? The 5 things may all still be the same, but they may be different in terms of the priority scale, right?
Yep.
And so education may be number 1 for one city, but healthcare and healthcare 5, whereas it could be totally reversed in another city.
Yep.
It's not to say that those things aren't important to them, but the priority in terms of what they are going to address changes based on that.
And these places have different assets to bring to solve those problems.
That's exactly
so the solutions aren't going to be the same.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That's really interesting. So what advice did you give Ken Martin?
Well,
wear a tougher suit.
Oh wow! That role is it's hard and it's difficult. It is the equivalent of a fire hydrant because everybody's pissing on you. It can be really, really hard, and it's even more. I think even probably a little bit more challenging when you don't have the White House in some aspects, because then everything falls on your shoulders, and you have to figure out how you help navigate this very, this big democratic ecosystem. And you have people who have unrealistic expectations then for what the DNC can actually do. There's some people who don't know what the DNC does, but they will apply everything that is wrong to the DNC. Well, the DNC did this. The DNC didn't recruit somebody to run for Congress in my space. The DNC put money in this and that. All the while, they're talking about some other entity in the democratic ecosystem, but then they don't know that. And they just all apply it to the DNC.
That's right.
And so it's this extra weight and burden that's on the organization, and it's not always easy. And then I think Ken is very ambitious in terms of the things that he wants to modify and change. But you also have to understand that this is an organization that change is not always the most receptive thing.
Yep.
And so you got to be strategic about. It's like giving kids medicine, right? Sometimes you have to put the medicine in something that is fruity or gummy or something that so that they take it. You can't just give them the full dose and have them respond in the way that you want them to. And so I think these early months it's him figuring that out. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But Ken Smart, he was a great state party chair, great president of the ASDC, and I think in the end he will do a wonderful job as chair.
Yeah, he knows what Democrats are for. He's got this values part down.
Yes, he definitely does.
Yeah. So we have this bind, and you lived this. The current divide, we've talked about it in a number of ways. This fork in the road. Another way I've thought about it is, look, the Republicans are all about organized money, and we're about organized people.
Yep.
It's a big difference, but you can't run a party without money.
You need money.
You need money. So Ken's job, in part, as you know, is to go get them, is to raise a lot of money. And that's different. And there's a tension right now between that and the people organizing part, because the money is not always on the same side.
No.
And it's very, very tough.
It is tough. And but folks, folks need to just, it's like when you teach your kids how to ride a bike and they fall down a few times, but you tell them to brush yourself off and you get back on. Well, that's what people need to do right now. They need to get back on. They need to, our large donors, major donors, they can't just take the checkbooks and go home, right? We need those resources in order to compete, because if we are not able to compete, it's only going to get worse.
Only going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse. And so the question is, how do we, our actions today have to be geared towards how do we make things better? And regardless of whether or not you have a big checkbook or a small checkbook, you got to figure out what it is that you can do in order to make things better. And that may mean, it may, for some people, it may be writing a check. For others, it may be making phone calls. For others, it may be running for office themselves or knocking on doors. But every single person, if you believe in this nation, if you believe in democracy, if you want things to be better, you have to do something to make it better. And we all have that obligation and responsibility.
I mean, we have, for better or worse, we live in a time when what you do matters. Really matters.
It really matters.
I think that is morally clarifying.
Yes.
Your decisions matter. And so I think Democrats, by and large, are making some good decisions. But the public sometimes thinks that Democrats are something that we're not, because what they think Democrats are the things the Republicans tell them we are. Mm-hmm. How do we break that bind and speak up for ourselves and not always get defined by the guys who are trying to hit us over the head?
Oh, that is so true. We are not, as a party, Republicans are very good at pounding their chest, right? They're very good at saying what they're for and the like. They're also very good at taking credit for other people's work.
Showing up at all those things they didn't vote for the ribbon cutting?
Man, Evan, I told one reporter, I said, I now know what happened to those kids in high school who would always show up to class, never did their homework, and would tap you on the shoulder and ask, can they copy yours? Mm-hmm. All of those people have become members of Congress for Republicans, the Republican Party. it is true. They're really good at taking credit for other folks' work. Whereas Democrats, we sort of keep our head down. We're sort of nerdy policy wonks that just want to do the work, but don't really, once we get that problem solved, we want to move to the next problem. But we don't want to tell anybody that we did it, right? We just want to, we feel content from the fact that we were able to address it and we move on to the next issue and problem. Well, in politics, you can't do that. And so one of the things I think we need to do is we got to tell people what we want to do, educate them about the process by which what we have to get done in order to achieve that. Then we have to get it done and accomplish it. And then we have to tell people constantly that we got it done so that they finally understand that what we did and what we achieved, and we did it on behalf of them. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think we need more of our own platforms to get our message out, because what used to happen in the past, you could always count on traditional media to say, well, and the Democratic president got this done and was able to achieve this, and then people mean that doesn't sell ads, right? No. They're not going to talk about it. And that's why during the Biden administration, arguably you could say that Joe Biden got more done legislatively than any other president since LBJ.
Well, and the result, even forget the legislation, the results for the American people were great. We had more jobs every quarter, the whole time. And every quarter, the New York Times would say, we had a great jobs report, but it can't last.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Every single time. And then all of these things, the investing in manufacturing, creating new economies for farmers, all of these things that we were able to get done and achieve. But we thought, well, the media is going to cover it, and they never covered it.
Never did.
No, because they wanted to cover what type of shoes Biden was wearing, or his stumbles here and there. And so in the end, if you can't get that message out, then people don't understand what you've done and what you've achieved. And if they don't know what you've done and achieved, then they're only going to look at the negative things that are going on and just apply that, well, you didn't do anything. And so maybe you're the cause of it. And so therefore we need to change. And the problem is the change that we have is only made things worse.
I need to take your advice and give shout outs to folks who are just getting stuff done. We got a congressman from right near here named Lauren Underwood.
Oh, I love Lauren.
Lauren doesn't grab headlines, but she works and works and works and has made people's lives better, and without boasting, without, and so it falls on the rest of us to make sure that nobody forgets the good work that people like Lauren Underwood actually do.
Lauren, I had Lauren on the podcast too. She was one of my early interviews.
Yeah.
She's hands down one of my favorite people in Congress, because she just gets stuff done. She just gets it done. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican in the White House or controlling Congress. She finds a way to get things done.
Yeah, she's really smart.
She really is. Yeah. She really is.
Yeah. Well, and all right, so that's me taking your advice and saying we can't let it go without telling people. But the other thing is that this world where we have to tell people the truth about what we're doing and not let the other guys tell them about us is why you're doing your thing. It's why we're doing this together, why I'm busy doing this all the time. Tell people how they can sign up, get your work, and share it so people get to see the story. Yeah,
so I am, folks, I'm all over social media. My handle at Harrison Jaime, and Jaime spelled like Jaime, Jaime. You can go to Substack, where I write a post every week on Substack, in addition to publishing my podcast. But you can go to my Substack page, Jaime Harrison, or just type JaimeHarrison.com, and it will take you to Substack. But I write this week I wrote a piece on the importance of mentors in our lives. Many times the pieces talk to the interview that I just did for my podcast, which is At Our Table, which is, a frank conversation, a family conversation with folks who are leaders, not only in the political space, but just everyday leaders around the country. And so I've really enjoyed doing that. It is so much fun sitting down with people and just being authentic and real about where things are, where we are, and who we are. And so I've enjoyed that, and I'm in the midst of writing my political memoir, I guess. So hopefully that'll come out, sometime soon. But it's Edwin. When I think about it, I've been blessed. I think about how I grew up. Son of a teen mom, grandparents raised me with the 4th grade and 8th grade education, and because of some hard work and some luck and really important people in my life in certain periods, I've been able to live my American dream. I've been able to be the chair of the oldest living political party on the face of the planet, and I appreciate that, and I understand that that's why this country is so important, because a round-headed kid like me could go on to do those type of things, and I want to make sure that I'm not a one-off, that opportunity is open for anybody.
Well, I really appreciate this conversation and your friendship. Give my best to your bride.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Yep.
Same here.
And we'll talk soon.
Okay, and hopefully I will see you in Chicago sometime soon.
I'd love that. Love that. When you come. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.